Have you ever looked at the skyline of a major American city or walked through the halls of a historic institution and wondered, what is the true foundation of all this wealth and power? The answer isn't simple, and it's certainly not comfortable. It's a story written in sweat and tears, a story that crosses an ocean and spans centuries. Today, we're going to delve into one of the most painful and impactful chapters of human history, the transatlantic slave trade. It's a story that needs to be told, not to assign blame, but to understand the world we live in today. Let's travel back in time to the late 15th century. Europe is buzzing with exploration. Ships are setting sail for new lands, driven by the desire for gold, glory, and God. But this age of discovery held a dark secret. On the west coast of Africa, vibrant kingdoms and societies had thrived for centuries. These were places of rich culture, complex trade networks, and deep-rooted traditions. But the arrival of European ships brought a new, insatiable demand, not for gold or spices, but for people. European traders, in partnership with some African leaders and merchants, began a trade that would forcibly remove millions from their homes. This wasn't a simple transaction. It was the beginning of a system that would commodify human beings, turning mothers, fathers, and children into cargo. Imagine being ripped from your home, torn from your family, and marched for weeks or even months to the coast. You don't speak the language of your captors. You're chained to strangers from different tribes, different cultures. You arrive at a coastal fortress, a slave castle like Elmina or Cape Coast, a place of no return. Here, you're held in dungeons, branded with hot irons like livestock, and stripped of your name, your identity, your humanity. This was the terrifying reality for millions. The characters in this tragedy are not just the faceless masses. They are individuals like Olaudah Equiano, who was just a boy when he was captured and later wrote a powerful account of his ordeal, giving a voice to the voiceless. On the other side were the ship captains, the merchants, the plantation owners' men, who built fortunes by rationalizing the unthinkable, creating ideologies of racial inferiority to justify their brutal enterprise. The climax of this initial horror was the journey itself, a chapter of history known by a deceptively simple name, the Middle Passage. This was the second leg of the triangular trade route, the voyage from Africa to the Americas. Let's be clear, these ships were not passenger vessels. They were floating prisons, designed to pack as many human bodies as possible into the smallest conceivable space. Men, women, and children were crammed below deck, chained together on rough wooden planks with less room than a person in a coffin. They lay in their own filth, in suffocating heat, with little air to breathe. The stench was overwhelming, a mixture of sweat, fear, and death. Disease, like dysentery and smallpox, ran rampant. The food was scarce and often spoiled. The water was rationed. The journey could last anywhere from 1 to 3 months, and for many, it was a death sentence. It is estimated that up to 2 million people, that's 1 in every 6 perished during the Middle Passage alone. Their bodies were simply thrown overboard into the Atlantic. This wasn't just neglect. It was calculated cruelty. The crew, often brutal and fearful of rebellion, would use whips and instruments of torture to maintain control. Captives were sometimes brought on deck for forced dancing to keep their muscles from atrophying. A grotesque spectacle of human suffering set against the vast, indifferent ocean. Yet, even in this unimaginable hell, the human spirit fought back. There are records of over 500 uprisings and rebellions aboard slave ships. People chose to jump overboard, preferring death in the ocean to a life in bondage. They communicated in whispers, formed bonds, and held on to fragments of their culture, their songs, and their stories. Acts of defiance in the face of total dehumanization. These acts of resistance are a crucial part of the story, a testament to the enduring will to be free. Upon arrival in the Americas in places like Brazil, the Caribbean, and North America, but the nightmare didn't end. It just changed form. Survivors of the Middle Passage were herded into markets, oiled up to look healthier, and sold at auction like cattle. Families that had somehow managed to stay together were now permanently ripped apart. A husband sold to one plantation, a wife to another, their children to a third, never to see each other again. This was the beginning of chattel slavery, a system where enslaved people and their descendants were legally considered property for life. Their labor was the engine that built the new world. They cleared forests, planted and harvested sugar, tobacco, cotton, and coffee cash crops that generated immense wealth for European empires and the fledgling United States. This system was upheld by brutal violence. The whip was a constant presence. Any sign of insubordination was met with horrific punishment. Yet, within this system of oppression, enslaved people built communities. They created a new, uniquely African American culture, a fusion of different African traditions with elements from their new environment. They created new forms of music like the spirituals, which often contained hidden messages of hope and escape. They developed new cuisines, new family structures, and new forms of worship. They told stories to their children, passing down memories of Africa and nurturing the dream of freedom. This resilience, this creation of culture and community in the face of unimaginable hardship, is one of the most powerful and inspiring parts of this entire history. The struggle for freedom was constant, from everyday acts of resistance like slowing down work, to organized rebellions, to daring escapes through networks like the Underground Railroad. The legacy of the transatlantic slave trade is not confined to the past. It's woven into the fabric of our society today. The immense wealth it generated laid the economic foundation for modern Western nations. More profoundly, the racial ideologies created to justify slavery persist in the form of systemic racism, inequality, and prejudice that continue to affect communities of color. Understanding this history is essential. It's not about guilt. It's about acknowledgement, empathy, and the responsibility to build a more just and equitable future. By confronting this painful past, we honor the millions of lives that were stolen and scarred, and we can better understand the world we've inherited and the work that still needs to be done. Thank you for joining me on this difficult but necessary journey through history. If this story moved you or taught you something new, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into the stories that have shaped our world. Your support helps us continue to tell these important tales. See you next time.